I died of illness in a secluded courtyard of the GU family that year, and only one old servant came from my own family. She relayed my mother's words, saying that over the years, I had stirred up trouble between the two families, and now that I was gone, I had at least left a path of peace for the living. My elder brother didn't even light a single stick of incense before my spirit tablet, he said. She stole Yunniang's destined marriage, ending up like this is what she brought upon herself. Gu Yunjiao was even more straightforward. He ordered the removal of the red funeral drapes, saying that Yunniang was frail, and as soon as my mourning period ended, he would bring her into the household in my past life. I was utterly wrong. I knew Gu Yunjiao had someone else in his heart, yet I faked illness, fell into water, and caused a citywide uproar, forcing him to marry me. 5 years of marriage, I begged, I cried, and I gambled with my life. In the end, even in death, I couldn't get him to look at me one more time. When I opened my eyes again, it was the day of the palace selection for female officials. The empress asked if I wanted to stay in the capital in my past life. I begged her to arrange a marriage for me and Gu Yunjiao. This time, I lowered my head and said, "Your subject is willing to enter the Bureau of Palace Affairs. Palace rules are strict. Female officials cannot marry privately. Gu Yunjiao no longer needs to be burdened by me, and Yunniang no longer needs to wait for me to die." 02 The hall was filled with curling incense smoke. The empress sat behind a beaded curtain, with a register of female officials beside her hand. I knelt on the crimson steps, stray hairs falling over my forehead, my fingertips pressing into my sleeve, digging into my palm bit by bit. It hurt. This body was still young, fingertips round, palms soft, no swelling from prolonged illness, no bone-deep cold that could never be warmed. The empress gently turned a page, her tone mild. "Shenruowan, your father says you've been diligent in your studies since childhood. If you wish to stay in the capital, I can arrange a good marriage for you." I kept my head lowered. In my past life, I had waited so long for this sentence. Back then, I looked up, crying, begging the empress to let me marry only Gu Yunjiao. All the female officials and palace attendants in the hall watched me. My knees went numb from kneeling, and my voice was hoarse from crying. "Your Majesty, your subject and young master Gu have known each other since youth. Your subject wishes only to marry him in this life." The truth was, we had known each other since youth, and the truth was, he didn't like me. He liked Lin Yunyang. She was an orphan left by my mother's close friend, who had lived with the Shen family for years. She was gentle, quiet, frail. Even a single cough could tug at one's heart. But I had always been willful. When she stepped back, I stepped forward. When her eyes reddened, I was even more determined to win. Later, I caused such a commotion that the empress was forced to issue a marriage decree. The Gu family dared not defy the imperial order, and neither could Gu Yunjiao. On our wedding day, he wore his bridal robes coldly and indifferently. When the veil was lifted, he only glanced at me once. "Shenruowan, are you satisfied now?" Back then, I thought there was still time to make things right. Now, returning to this day, I know that time was never long. 5 years in that secluded courtyard, cold stoves, bitter medicine, an empty bed, the contempt of every servant in the household, and after death, not even a proper coffin. The empress waited a moment, then asked, "You don't want to marry?" I prostrated myself and kowtowed. "Your subject is willing to enter the Bureau of Palace Affairs." Silence fell behind the beaded curtain. The register of female officials was gently closed. The empress seemed somewhat surprised. "Do you know that once you enter the Bureau of Palace Affairs, you become an official, bound by strict palace rules, rarely able to return home, and female officials are not permitted to marry privately? Your subject knows. You won't regret it." I closed my eyes. The words Gu Yunjiao had spoken before my spirit tablet in my past life scraped against my ear like a cold wind. If she had come to her senses sooner, everyone could have suffered a few years less. I said softly, "Your subject has no regrets." The empress looked at me for a long time, then finally said, "Lift your head." I looked up. She studied me through the beaded curtain, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. "I've heard that you were once quite close with the young master of the Gu family." I lowered my gaze. "In my youth, I was foolish and troubled young master Gu. And now you understand." I nodded gently. "I understand." The empress tapped her finger on the register. "The Bureau of Palace Affairs does not accept those seeking refuge, nor does it accept those acting on a momentary whim." My back stiffened. The empress continued, "If you enter the palace, You must rely on your own abilities to stay. Start as the lowest-ranking ledger clerk, checking accounts, recording documents, and auditing stores every day. Every mistake will be punished. I felt a wave of relief instead. Your subject is willing. Every mistake will be punished. Good. In the palace, the rules are clear. Mistakes are punished accordingly. Unlike the GU household, my mistake was forcing things, and after that, even breathing became a mistake. The Empress finally smiled. Very well, enter the Bureau of Palace Affairs in 3 days. I kowtowed. Your subject thanks the Empress for her grace. As I left the palace, the wind swept across the long steps. The palace walls stood tall, a steady, deep red. By Dao, my maid, supported me, her voice still trembling. Miss, are you really going to enter the palace as a female official? But female officials can't marry. I smiled. Then that's perfect. She looked at me, eyes red rimmed. Miss, weren't you the one who most wanted to marry Master Gu? I stopped at the bottom of the long steps. Gu Yunjiao stood outside the palace gates today. He wore a bamboo green brocade robe, his shoulders straight, his brows and eyes cold and clear. Lin Yunyang stood beside him, draped in a light white cloak, her face somewhat pale, a handkerchief clutched in her hand. Seeing me, she first whispered softly, Sister Ruowan. Gu Yunjiao, however, looked at me. What are you doing entering the palace? I bowed to him. Master Gu, his brow furrowed, probably unused to such formality from me in the past. When I saw him, I'd always rush over and call him Brother Yunjiao, my voice sweet, my heart a mess. I continued. Her Majesty the Empress has graciously allowed me to enter the Bureau of Palace Affairs as a record-keeping secretary. Lin Yunyang froze, her handkerchief tightening slightly. Gu Yunjiao's expression also changed. Record-keeping secretary? Yes, have you lost your mind? I looked up at him. Master Gu. Watch your words. Before the palace gates, it's improper to lose composure. He looked as if my words had stung him. I didn't want to linger any longer. Just as I took a step, Lin Yunyang spoke softly. Sister, are you still blaming me? I stopped. Her eyes were already red. If it's because last time I mistakenly used your medicine when I was sick, and that's why you want to enter the palace to avoid me, I can speak to Auntie and move to the other courtyard. Same old story. One sentence, and she puts herself in the most pitiful position. In the past, I would have flared up immediately, told her to stop playing the victim, told her she knew full well that medicine was something I begged for, told her she deliberately made mother feel sorry for her, and then everyone would frown. Gu Yunjiao would step in front of her. Shen Ruowan, Yunyang is frail. Do you have to argue with her over a bowl of medicine? This time, I only said, Miss Lin, you worry too much. Entering the palace is my choice. It has nothing to do with you. Tears welled in her eyes, threatening to fall but not quite. Sister, I cut her off. In the future, when I'm on duty in the palace, Miss Lin, please don't address me that way. It's against the rules. With that, I led Bitao down the long steps. Gu Yunjiao's gaze lingered on my back. I didn't look back. 03 When I returned to the Shun residence, Mother already knew the news. In the front hall, Father, Mother, and my eldest brother Shen Shuren were all there. Lin Yunyang had also arrived before me, sitting beside Mother, her eyes red. When my eldest brother saw me, his face darkened severely. Shen Ruowan, what are you stirring up now? I stood at the doorway. Those words were too familiar. In my past life, every time I caused trouble, he'd ask me that. When I forced Gu Yunjiao to marry me, he asked me that too. Later, after I died, he sent someone with a straw mat and said I brought it on myself. Back then, I hated him, hated that he, who had doted on me since childhood, wouldn't even burn incense for me in the end. Now, looking at his young face, the hatred had faded. He had been dragged down by me for many years, and he had protected me for many years too. Mother spoke first. Did you really beg the Empress to enter the Bureau of Palace Affairs? I bowed. Yes. Mother's eyes instantly turned red. Are you still blaming me for giving the medicine to Yunyang? My eldest brother frowned. Over a bowl of medicine, you're going to gamble away your whole life. Lin Yunyang quickly said, Brother, don't talk about sister like that. If I had known that medicine was for sister, I definitely wouldn't have accepted it. Mother gently patted her hand. You're frail, so using it was fine. She's always been tough. Missing one bowl won't make a difference. I listened quietly. Those words were familiar too. In my past life, after I got married and fell gravely ill, The GU family came to the Shun residence asking for medicine. Mother knew that medicine could save my life, but her first question was, "Is Yunyang still coughing lately?" Later, that box of medicine was sent to Lin Yunyang. She, sick and tearful, said she didn't want to take my medicine either, but in the end, she was the one who drank it. I looked at Mother and said softly, "Mother is right." Mother was stunned. I continued, "I'm tough, I can endure in the palace too." My eldest brother's face grew even uglier. "Ruowan, don't be sarcastic." I smiled. "Brother, I'm not, I just think that with me in the household, no one can have peace. After I enter the palace, Mother won't have to be caught between me and Yunyang, brother won't have to clean up my messes every day, and Master Gu won't have to be pestered by me anymore. Isn't that a good thing?" The hall fell silent. Lin Yunyang's tears finally fell. "Elder sister, saying this makes me want to sink into the ground. I was tired in the past, I would have argued, but now, I just couldn't muster the energy." "Miss Lin, if it pains you to hear this, then listen less. I'm leaving in 3 days. Mother clutched her chest. "You're really going?" I knelt down. "This unfilial daughter will be unable to serve at your side for the next 3 years. Please take care, father and mother." Father was silent for a long time. He had never cared much for matters within the inner court in the past. When he saw me making a scene, he would only frown and tell mother to discipline me. Today, he looked at me, and for the first time, there was hesitation in his eyes. "The Shanggong Bureau is harsh," I kowtowed. "This daughter knows, if you can't hold on, the Shun family may not be able to bring you back immediately. This daughter understands." Big brother suddenly stood up. "I'll go find the Empress and have her revoke the order." I looked up. "Big brother." His footsteps froze. I said, "Don't clean up after me anymore. This time, I chose this myself." Shun Shuren stood frozen in place. I turned and walked back to my courtyard. Bitao was crying as she packed the boxes. "Miss, let this servant go with you. The Shanggong Bureau doesn't allow household maids." She cried even harder. "Then who will take care of the miss alone in the palace?" I placed a silver bracelet into her hand. "Go to grandmother's courtyard. I've already spoken with the nanny by grandmother's side." Bitao shook her head desperately. I said softly, "Be good." In my past life, after I died, only she had wanted to collect my body in this life. I didn't want her to suffer with me anymore. 3 days later, the carriage for entering the palace stopped in front of the Shun residence. Mother didn't come out. Father stood under the eaves, watching from afar. Big brother did come. He carried a bundle in his hand, his face dark. "It's cold in the palace. Take this." I took it. Inside were a few thick clothes and 2 bottles of medicine for injuries. "Thank you, big brother." His lips moved, as if he wanted to curse me, but in the end, he only said, "If you're wronged, send word back." I nodded. "All right." Lin Yunyang stood at the entrance of mother's courtyard, watching me from afar. She didn't come over. Gu Yunjiao didn't come either. Good. When the carriage started moving, I lifted the curtain and took one last look at the Shun family plaque. No tears, no reluctance. I just felt that somewhere in my chest, it had finally emptied. From now on, I would no longer have to fight for anyone's gaze, making a mess of myself. 04 The Shanggong Bureau was colder than I had imagined. Not the cold of the weather, but the cold of the rules. Every day, rise at the hour of the tiger, roll call at the hour of the rabbit, and by the hour of the dragon, enter the storeroom to check accounts. I was assigned to the Department of Records, managing the ledgers for the palace's candles, curtains, and vessels. The female official in charge of me was named Meng Choshuang. She was in her early 30s, with sharp brows and eyes, and never wasted a single word of courtesy. On the first day, she threw an old ledger in front of me. "Memorize this within 3 days." I looked down. It was a thick volume, densely packed with names of items. "Yes." She glanced at me, "A pampered girl from the Shun family. Even if she's held a brush, she might not be able to endure the accounts." I didn't defend myself. That night, when I returned to the female official's quarters, my wrists were so sore I could barely lift them. I slept on a shared bed. The bedding was clean, but thin. I lay on the innermost side, listening to the low whispers of the female clerks beside me. Someone said that I was indeed the Shun family's daughter, targeted by Supervisor Meng on the first day. Someone else said that I looked delicate, but since I had entered the Shanggong Bureau, being delicate was useless. I closed my eyes and didn't speak. These words were much lighter than the harsh ones in the Gu family's side courtyard. In that side courtyard, the servant said to my face, No matter how much the madam fusses, the young master's heart isn't with her. When she dies, and Miss Lin enters the household, we'll finally have good days. Back then, I still had the strength to smash teacups. Later, I couldn't even do that, so I just listened. Now, these were just a few idle words, they couldn't hurt me. 3 days later, Meng Qiushuang tested me. I made 2 mistakes in my recitation. She punished me by making me stand and copy the ledger for an hour. I did it. On the 4th day, she tested me again. Not a single mistake. Meng Qiushuang finally gave me another look. Your memory is passable. That was the first praise I had heard since entering the palace. Though it was faint, I almost wanted to laugh, and so the days unfolded one by one, checking accounts, counting the storeroom, writing records, inspecting shortages. Everything in the palace had its origin. Even a single red candle had to be recorded in the ledger. Red candles. The first time I saw that item, my hand still trembled. In my past life, when news of my death reached the Jiyu family, Jiyu Yunjiao was picking out wedding candles for Lin Yunyang, several crates of red candles, dragon and phoenix patterns, mandarin duck patterns, pomegranate patterns. On my sickbed, my oil lamp was nearly burnt out, yet he was choosing her bridal candles. Meng Qiushuang saw me pause my brush and said coldly, Shun Ruowan. I snapped back, here, don't let your mind wander in front of the account books. I lowered my head. Yes, after that day, I became especially meticulous with the candle and lamp accounts, every candle, where it came from, which palace it went to, which day it was used. I remembered it all clearly. A month after entering the palace, the Empress summoned me for a talk. She looked over my accounts and asked, Is the Bureau of Palace Affairs hard? I replied, It's manageable. She gave a slight smile. Meng Qiushuang said you can endure hardship. I was a bit surprised. The Empress said, She rarely praises anyone. I lowered my head. Chief Recorder Meng taught me well. The Empress looked at me. Do you ever regret it? I shook my head. No regrets. The Empress set down the account book. The Jiyu family has sent 2 letters recently, asking if you're well in the palace. My fingertips paused. The Empress noticed. Do you want to see them? No. I answered quickly. The Empress seemed satisfied. Then don't. As I left, the Empress's attendant handed me a small box. Inside was hand cream. The attendant smiled. Her Majesty said that as a recording clerk, you write often, and your hands mustn't get chapped. I took the box, and suddenly felt a sting in my nose. Before entering the palace, everyone thought I was hiding, making a scene, acting out of spite. But the Empress truly treated me as a female official. I returned to the records office. Meng Qiushuang saw me holding the box and said flatly, Don't think that just because Her Majesty rewarded you, you can skip a single entry. I smiled. I know. She paused. What are you smiling about? I shook my head. Nothing. Just that. This is fine. 205. The 2nd month, Lin Yunyang fell ill. The news was sent into the palace through Bai Dao. She was now serving in grandmother's courtyard, and her letter was written cautiously. Miss Lin has been coughing badly since winter. Madam stays by her side every day. Young Master Jiyu has come a few times, bringing medicine, and also asked how you're doing in the palace. The eldest young master won't let us say much, only that you're busy. I finished reading the letter, folded it, and put it in the box. She's sick, and Jiyu Yunjiao brings medicine. That's how it should be, without me in the way. They should have come together sooner. I went back to copying the accounts. The female clerk sharing my room whispered, Sister Shen, someone's looking for you outside. I went out and saw Shen Shuren standing under the corridor outside the palace gate. He wore a deep blue official robe, his brows cold and sharp, holding a food box in his hand. Seeing me, he frowned first. You've lost weight. I bowed. Brother. He shoved the food box at me. Grandmother had Osman thus cakes made. Thank grandmother for me. He looked at my fingers. I instinctively hid them in my sleeve, but he saw. How did your hands get so chapped? I said, from writing accounts. His face darkened. I told you, this place isn't for you. Brother, I'm doing fine. Shen Shuren was taken aback. I looked up at him. Chief Recorder Meng says my memory is decent. If this were before, I would have scoffed. The praise of a mere recording clerk, how could it compare to one word of approval from Jiyu Yunjiao? But now, it's different. Shen Shuren looked at me, and after a long silence, said quietly, Do you like it here? Not really. I thought for a moment. But here, if you're wrong, you're punished. If you're right, you're credited. It's very clear. Shun Shuren's eyes flickered. He probably understood. In the Shun and Jiyu households, many things were unclear. Lin Yunyang cried, "It was my fault." Jiyu Yunjiao was cold. "It was my fault. Mother favored her. And when I made a fuss, it was my fault too. Later, I married the wrong man, and my whole life became my fault." "Brother," I said, "from now on, don't write to me about Miss Lin and young Master Jiyu." He frowned. "You don't want to know?" "No, really." I smiled. "Really?" He looked at me, as if trying to read the truth. Finally, he raised his hand, as if to pat my head like when we were kids. His hand stopped halfway, then fell. "Grandmother misses you." My heart softened. "When the new year comes and Her Majesty grants leave, I'll go back to see her." He nodded. "Good." Before leaving, he added, "I'll keep Jiyu Yunjiao away." I shook my head. "There's no need to stop him on purpose, even if I'm in the palace. He won't be able to see me." Shun Xian's face was still pale. "He asked me a few days ago if you were still angry." I lowered my head and smiled. Jiyu Yunjiao probably still thought my entering the palace was just another way of making a scene back then. I faked illness, fell into the water, begged and cried, even starved myself. I tried everything. Now that I've hidden behind palace rules, he naturally thinks it's a new tactic. If my brother sees him again, just tell him I'm not angry, and that I'm not waiting for him either. Shun Xian was silent for a moment. "All right." After he left, I picked up my food box and headed back to the records office. A few female clerks gathered around, their eyes bright. "Shun Yushi, your brother is really handsome." I handed out the plum blossom cakes to them. "Eat up." Meng Qiushuang came out from the inner room and saw us sharing the cakes. She raised an eyebrow. "Finished the accounts?" Everyone scattered immediately. I quickly sat down as well. When she passed by me, she took a piece of plum blossom cake. "Don't let it happen again." I couldn't help but purse my lips and smile. That evening, someone suddenly came from the Empress's palace. They said that when Jiyu Yunjiao requested an audience with the Empress, he also asked if he could see me. The Empress only sent back one message. During duty hours, female officials of the Palace Domestic Service Bureau do not meet with outside men. After hearing that, the taut string in my heart slowly loosened. Palace rules are strict. How wonderful. 06. Before the new year, the Palace Domestic Service Bureau was auditing the old accounts of all the palaces. I found a discrepancy. The Yaohua Palace had received 20 pairs of Dragon Phoenix red candles last winter, but the ledger recorded only 12 pairs. The missing 8 pairs had vanished without a trace. After Meng Qiushuang finished reviewing the accounts I had marked, her expression shifted slightly. "Who handled this account?" I flipped through the old records. The former records office clerk, Liu Ying. A clerk in the same room whispered a reminder. "Liu Ying is now the steward of Yaohua Palace." Yaohua Palace was where the noble consort lived. The Empress and the noble consort had never gotten along. This red candle account could be either a big deal or a small one. If we investigated further, it wouldn't just be about a few candles. Meng Qiushuang glanced at me. "Are you afraid?" I thought for a moment. "Yes." She frowned. I continued, "But the account is indeed wrong." Meng Qiushuang finally smiled a little, not completely stupid yet. She took me to see the Empress. The Empress flipped through the account book, her face gradually turning cold. "Investigate." The investigation revealed that Yaohua Palace had secretly hoarded ceremonial candles to prepare a dowry for the noble consort's niece. All candles in the palace were strictly accounted for. Was a major offense. As a result, the noble consort was reprimanded by the Empress, and Yaohua Palace's steward, Liu Ying, was given 20 lashes and demoted to the laundry bureau. For my contribution in uncovering the error, I was promoted to the rank of 8th rank records office clerk. When the decree came down, everyone in the records office came to congratulate me. Meng Qiushuang only said lightly, "Promotion isn't something to be happy about. It means you'll bear more responsibility for mistakes." I bowed. "Understood." She looked at me, a hint of a smile in her eyes. "Have an extra piece of cake tonight." I smiled too. On New Year's Eve, we were granted one day off. I returned to the Shun family. When my grandmother saw me in my female official's uniform, her eyes reddened instantly. "Our Ruowan has changed." I knelt and kowtowed to her. She pulled me up and touched my hand. "Why is it still so cold?" My mother sat to the side, looking a bit uncomfortable. "I wonder if they're taking good care of you in the palace." I lowered my head and said, "The Empress treats me very well." She opened her mouth but said nothing. Lin Yunyang also came to my grandmother's courtyard. Her face was paler than before winter, and she carried a faint smell of medicine. When she saw me, she said softly, "Sister Ruowan." I bowed. "Miss Lin." Her expression stiffened. My mother frowned. "Ruowan, Yunyang has been in the family for years. What's wrong with her calling you sister?" Before I could speak, my grandmother said first, "Ruowan is now a palace official. There's nothing wrong with being cautious in how she addresses people." My mother was left speechless. Lin Yunyang forced a smile. "It was my oversight." At the dinner table, my father asked about matters in the palace. I picked a few things I could talk about and said them. When Shen Xian heard about me uncovering the accounting error, his eyes lit up. "Not bad." My mother also showed some surprise. "You can read accounts now." I smiled. "I look at them every day in the Palace Domestic Service Bureau." Lin Yunyang said softly, "Sister Ruowan has always been clever. She was just spoiled by the family before." The words sounded like a compliment, but there was a subtle sting to them. I put down my chopsticks. "Miss Lin, please watch your words." She was taken aback. I continued, "As a palace official on duty, I dare not be described as spoiled." The table fell silent for a moment. Shen Xian glanced at me, and there was actually a hint of a smile in his eyes. Mother's expression was a bit awkward. Lin Yunyang's eyes reddened again. In the past, whenever her eyes reddened, I would be the target of everyone's accusations, but today, grandmother just picked up a piece of food and placed it in my bowl. "Eat." I lowered my head. "Yes." After the New Year's Eve dinner, I didn't stay overnight at the mansion. I had to return before the palace gates closed. As I was leaving, Shen Shuren saw me to the door. He suddenly asked, "Were you deliberately provoking her just now?" I looked at him. He was holding back a laugh. "Good." I smiled too. "Big brother used to say I was the one bullying others." He paused. "In the past, you really did bully a lot." I didn't argue. Then he added, "But not today." A warmth spread through my heart. "Thank you, big brother." Just as I stepped out of the Shen Mansion's alley, the carriage suddenly stopped. Bitao lifted the curtain and glanced out, her expression shifting slightly. "Miss, it's young Master Jiyu." Jiyu Yunjiao stood in the snow, holding an umbrella. When he saw me, he took 2 steps forward. "Shen Ruowan." I sat in the carriage, not stepping out. "Does young Master Jiyu have business?" His gaze fell on my female official's robe. "Are you really planning to stay in the palace forever?" I nodded. "Yes." He was silent for a moment. "If it's because of me, young Master Jiyu is overthinking," I said softly. "I entered the palace because I want to be a female official. It has nothing to do with you." His face paled little by little against the snow. Those 4 words, "It has nothing to do with you," I'd said them a few times before, but it seemed he only started to understand them today. 07 After returning to the palace, I got promoted, and my workload increased. Meng Qiushuang was transferred to the Shangyi Bureau to assist, and I took over half of the accounts in the Sibofang. Every day I was busy until the Shu hour, 7 to 9 p.m., collapsing into bed as soon as I got back to my room. Jiyu Yunjiao sent things a few times. They were all turned back at the palace gates. Later, he asked Shen Shuren to pass along messages. Shen Shuren was annoyed at first, and eventually just called him out to a tavern and beat him up. When news of this reached the palace, I was in the middle of inventorying the storeroom. A fellow female clerk recounted it with great enthusiasm. "I heard young Master Jiyu got his lip busted by Master Shen." My brush paused. "Why, what else could it be?" She leaned in closer and whispered, "For you." I said nothing. After my shift ended, Shen Shuren indeed sent a letter in. The letter had just a few lines. He asked me if you're suffering a lot in the palace, I said. "Back when you were causing trouble at home, everyone suffered. Now that you're working in the palace, it's like you finally know what you want, His face was terrible, I couldn't help it, so I beat him up." At the end, he added, "Didn't use a knife." I laughed out loud at those 3 words. After laughing, I felt like crying. Big brother was still big brother, but in this life, he no longer forced others for me. Instead, he shielded me from them. In spring, the Empress ordered the Shanggong Bureau to prepare a spring banquet. I was in charge of the inventory of ceremonial items, running around non-stop. On the day of the spring banquet, Lin Yunyang entered the palace with mother. Her illness seemed to have improved a little. She wore a light pink spring blouse, with a pearl hairpin tucked at her temple. Jiyu Yunjiao was also at the banquet. The 2 stood apart, not together. I was passing by under the corridor with a ledger in my arms when Lin Yunyang called out to me, "Female clerk Shen." I stopped and bowed. Miss Lin, she looked at me, her eyes complex. You really look like someone from the palace now. It's my duty. She coughed lightly a few times. I told the young maid behind me to fetch some hot water. Lin Yunyang froze. You're still willing to take care of me? I found the question strange. Miss is a guest in the palace, and you're coughing badly. Naturally, the Shanggong Bureau should attend to you. Her face turned pale. Just because I'm a guest, I didn't answer, she said softly. Ruowan, in the past, I really didn't mean to take what was yours. I looked at her. The spring breeze blew through the corridor, flower shadows falling on her sleeves. There were tears in her eyes. If it were my past life, I would have been furious now. I just felt a little tired. Miss Lin, I don't want to bring up the past anymore. Her tears fell. But I always feel that the way you are now is because of me. I was sick, I needed medicine, and Auntie gave it to me. I cried, and everyone blamed you. After you entered the palace, Auntie often stares blankly at your courtyard, and Big Brother doesn't talk to me much anymore, and young Master Gu, even more so. She stopped. I finished for her. He doesn't come to see you much anymore either. Lin Yunyang's face turned deathly pale. I closed my ledger. Then Miss Lin should ask them. Don't ask me. I've already moved out of the Shen family, and I've stepped back from between you two. If you still feel uneasy, it's not about why I left. It's about where you yourself stand. She froze. I didn't stay. As I turned, Jiu Yunjiao stood not far away. He must have heard. I nodded at him, ready to leave. He suddenly spoke. Shun Ruowan, are you this cold to everyone now? I stopped. Master Jiu, this is the palace. I'm just following the rules. Pain flickered in his eyes. You used to hate rules the most. I looked at him. People change, he said in a low voice. I dreamed of you. My fingertips tightened. Dreamed of you in the Jiu family's side courtyard. Dreamed you were very sick. Dreamed I was picking red candles for Yun Niang. His voice grew hoarse. Word by word, in the dream, someone came to report that you were gone, I said. He didn't finish, but I knew what he said. Asterisk, if she had come to her senses sooner, everyone could have suffered less. Asterisk. I looked at him very calmly. I asked, Master Gu, have you come to your senses now? His face turned pale. I continued. The me in the dream is already dead. The Shun Ruowan in the palace still has accounts to reconcile. Excuse me, 08 Jiu Yunjiao fell ill. Shun Shuan wrote to tell me in the letter. He said that after the palace banquet, Jiu Yunjiao came down with a high fever, calling my name over and over in his dreams. After reading it, I put the letter away. The female clerk sharing my room asked, Lady Shen, aren't you going to reply? I shook my head. No need, she sighed. You have a hard heart. I smiled. It's better to be hard, soft, and you'll get crushed underfoot. In April, the palace was to renovate the old storeroom. I was ordered to lead a team to clear out discarded curtains and old wooden chests. The storeroom hadn't been opened for years. Thick with dust, the young maids covered their noses and complained. I told them to carry the chests out to air first. When we reached the last room, a beam suddenly collapsed in one corner. I couldn't dodge in time, and a wooden shelf pinned my arm. The pain made everything go black. When I woke up, I was already in the side room of the Shanggong Bureau. The imperial physician was bandaging me. The auntie from the empress's side was also there. The bone isn't broken, just the tendons. You need to rest for a while. I breathed a sigh of relief. The account books. The auntie couldn't help but laugh. Her Majesty said someone else will handle the accounts. You focus on healing your hand. I looked down at my right hand, wrapped up tight, a bit dazed. For the past 2 years, I'd used it every day to write, check accounts, and tally records. Suddenly unable to. My heart felt hollow. That evening, Meng Qiushuang came to see me. She was now a female official in the Shangyi Bureau, still with that cold face. I heard the first thing you said when you woke up was about the account books. I felt a little embarrassed. Old habit. She placed a stack of ledgers by my bed. My eyes lit up. She said coldly, Look, don't write. I smiled. Thank you, Sister Meng. She froze for a moment, and the tips of her ears seemed to redden. Who's your sister? Then she left with my injured hand. I had a rare moment of leisure. The Empress rewarded me with medicine, and my grandmother sent nourishing soup. Shun Shuan personally submitted a request to visit me in the palace. The moment he saw me, he frowned. You managed to get yourself hurt in the palace. I laughed. Accident. Seeing me still smiling, his face darkened even more. Jiu Yunjiao knows too. I looked down. Oh, he said he wants to see you. No. Shun Shuan nodded. I figured. He sat down, then suddenly said, Ruowan, Is what Jiyu Yunjiao dreamed about real? I was silent. He looked at my bandaged hand, his voice dropping. I dreamed it. 2. I jerked my head up. Shen Shuren's eyes were red. Dreamed you died in the Jiyu family's side courtyard. I didn't go. I just sent someone with a straw mat. His voice was very hoarse. When I woke up, my hands were shaking. How could I have been like that? I looked at him. The resentment from my past life surged up like a tide, then slowly receded. Big brother. Maybe you didn't have time back then. He froze. I continued. Maybe it wasn't that you didn't want to come, just that everyone assumed you didn't want to. Shen Shuren's tears suddenly fell. He raised his hand to cover his eyes. Ruowan, I'm sorry. My eyes burned. In this life, you didn't. In this life, Big brother came to see me off to the palace, brought me plum blossom cakes, and even hit Jiyu Yunjiao for me. He laughed and cried at my words. Does that count? It counts. He lowered his head, and after a long pause, said, then it'll count from now on. I nodded. All right. Jiyu Yunjiao never got to see me. The empress knew he had waited 2 hours outside the palace gates, but only gave a faint order. Lady Shen's hands are injured. She needs rest. Tell Master Jiyu to go back. I heard this from the auntie while flipping through account books with my left hand. Very slowly, the auntie said. When Master Jiyu left, his face was pale enough to frighten anyone. I looked down at the accounts. The auntie glanced at me. Don't you feel a pang of pity? I thought about it, more for myself. The auntie chuckled. That's right. 09. My hands healed over a month. The day I could finally hold a brush again. Meng Qiushuang personally watched me write half a page. Not bad. I smiled. Just not bad. Uglier than before. Sister Meng. She frowned. Don't act spoiled. I froze for a moment. Spoiled, that word felt so distant. Once, I had acted spoiled with my mother, my brother. Jiyu Yunjiao spoiled until they all thought I was being unreasonable. Now, Meng Qiushuang's don't act spoiled carried no disgust, just annoyance that I was delaying her from checking accounts. I lowered my head and smiled. Got it. By summer, the Empress transferred me to the Shangyi Bureau to assist Meng Qiushuang in managing palace banquet ceremonial vessels. This was a promotion. The day I moved out of the Saibu room, the female clerks in my shared quarters packed me some pastries. Some cried, some laughed. I realized then that I had actually made friends not by fighting for them, not by making a fuss, but by staying up late with them over accounts, lighting lamps, sharing cakes bit by bit. I earned them. In July, Lin Yunyang left the Shen family. She didn't marry Jiyu Yunjiao, nor did she stay in the capital. From my grandmother's letter, I heard she went south to her aunt's home before she left. She left me a letter. The letter was thick. I opened it, read it through, and sat for a long time. In it, she said that during these years of staying with the Shen family, she had always been afraid of being kicked out, afraid of being a burden with her illness, afraid that I hated her, and afraid that my mother's care would one day be withdrawn. So she learned to cry, to retreat, to never say what she wanted, yet make others offer it to her first. She said it wasn't innocence, she just hadn't dared to admit it before. At the end, she wrote, Ruowan, I owe you an apology, and I owe myself a path that doesn't cling to others, I'm going south to recover and learn to support myself. I put the letter into a box. I didn't reply, but that day, I sent a box of cough pills commonly used in the palace down south. The sender was marked as the Shanggong Bureau, not Shen Ruowan. Jiyu Yunjiao came again once. This time, when I was sent out of the palace to purchase ceremonial vessels, he stood outside the shop, as if he had been waiting for a long time. 2 young female clerks accompanied me. He kept his distance, observing propriety. Lady Shen. I returned the greeting. Master Jiyu. He looked at me, his eyes full of unspoken words. Finally, he only asked, are your hands healed? Yes. That's good. He said that and didn't stop me further. I was a little surprised. He said in a low voice, Yunyang is gone. I nodded. I heard. I didn't keep her. He looked at the crowd on the street. Lately, I often wonder what would have happened if you hadn't entered the palace. I didn't answer. He answered himself. Probably another mistake. I looked at him. His eyes were slightly red, but he managed to smile. You were right to leave, Shen Ruowan. You were very right to leave. My heart stirred faintly, not with emotion, just a realization that the Jiyu Yunjiao who coldly said I should have thought it through in my dreams had finally learned to say something human. He took a wooden box from his sleeve. I didn't take it. He said quietly, it's not a gift for you. It's the money for those pairs of red candles in the dream. I froze. He placed the box on the stone steps beside us. I asked the Shanggong Bureau. There are retired female officials who have nowhere to go after illness. If you're willing, use this silver to buy them a place to recover. I looked at the box. After a long moment, I had the female clerk behind me take it. I'll record it in the accounts. Jiyu Yunjiao nodded. Good. He stepped back. He didn't call my name again, nor did he say he would wait. He just bowed. Lady Shen, take care. I returned the bow. Master Jiyu, take care too. This farewell felt like finally cutting an old thread. 2 years later, I became the chief steward of the Shangyi Bureau. Meng Qiu Shuang was promoted to Shanggong, palace secretary. The empress laughed, saying that her cold face could finally manage more people. After hearing this, Meng Qiu Shuang only said, "Your servant obeys the decree." I almost laughed out loud beside her. Later, she asked me what I was laughing at. I said, "Sister Meng has become Shanggong, but you're still the same as ever." She glanced at me. "You're not much better. Now the young female clerks are all afraid of you." I was stunned. Afraid of me? They say that when Steward Shen audits the accounts, she can pick out even a single wrong line. I couldn't help but laugh. That's fine. Better than being called domineering, jealous, or a homewrecker. After the convalescent quarters for the old palace women were built, the empress named it Evergreen Lodge. I went to see it myself. The small courtyard was behind the west side passage, planted with a few pomegranate trees. Those female officials who retired due to illness finally had a place to settle. I recorded the account of Jiyu Yunjiao's box in the first volume. The entry read, "Anonymous charitable silver, used to build the east wing of Evergreen Lodge." He never came to ask about it again. I heard later that he was sent on an external assignment. 3 years passed without his return. The Shen family also changed a lot. My eldest brother got married. My sister-in-law was sharp, could ride a horse, and managed accounts well. The first time we met, she stuffed a bag of homemade dried meat into my hands. My mother had aged a bit. Whenever she saw me again, she was always a little cautious. One year, I returned to the mansion to visit my grandmother. She held my hand and suddenly said, "Ruowan, the year you entered the palace, I always thought you resented me." I looked at her. Her eyes were red. Later, before Yunyang passed away, she told me that I had given her too much undeserved worry and you too much undeserved grievance. I didn't speak. My mother choked out, "It's your mother's fault." These words came very late, so late that I had long stopped waiting for them day after day. But when they came, I still felt sad for a while. I said softly, "It's all in the past." She cried even harder. I didn't throw myself into her arms like before. I just handed her a handkerchief. Some bonds between mother and daughter, once broken, leave scars. Being able to speak again was already good. My grandmother was still hale and hearty. She loved seeing me in my female official uniform the most. Every time, she would touch the cuffs and say, "Our Ruowan has her own look now." I smiled. Grandmother says the same thing every time. She laughed too. Never get tired of it. Someone in the palace advised me that at my age, I could ask the empress for permission to leave and remarry. The empress even asked me once, "If you want to leave the palace, I can arrange it for you." I thought for a long time. Finally, I shook my head. "Your servant wishes to stay." The empress looked at me. "Don't want to marry?" I smiled. "Not for now. There are many account books and ritual vessels in the palace. I can still manage them." The empress laughed. "Then manage them." I stayed. It wasn't that I was trapped by the palace walls. It was that I had finally chosen a path I could walk on my own. 11. The year Jiyu Yunjiao returned to the capital, I was 24. He was transferred to the Ministry of Rites. The first time he entered the palace on official business, he happened to meet me as I was inspecting the newly tribute ritual vessels. He was much more composed than before. His features were still handsome, but the cold hardness of his youth was gone. He saw me from afar and stopped. "Steward Shen." I returned the greeting. "Lord Jiyu." We stood 3 steps apart on the palace path. He looked at the female clerks and the ritual vessel ledger behind me and said softly, "You're doing very well now." I smiled. Yes, this time, I didn't be modest. I really was doing well. I had an official rank, duties, the Evergreen Lodge I had helped build, and a group of young female clerks who were afraid of me but also stuffed snacks into my hands. He nodded. "That's good." He didn't mention the dream, nor did he mention that year. He only took an official document from his sleeve, the Ministry of Rites list of newly tribute ritual vessels, for the Shangyi Bureau to verify. I took it, reply in 3 days, he said, much obliged. As we brushed past each other, he suddenly paused, Shinruowan. I turned around, he seemed to want to say something, but in the end, only said, thank you. I was a little puzzled. He looked toward the end of the palace wall. If you hadn't left back then, I probably would never have been able to tell the difference between guilt, habit, and liking. Later, during those years on assignment, I realized that a person can't decide who to love based on someone else's tears and tantrums, nor can they wait until someone is dead to know what they owe. I listened quietly. The wind blew through the palace path, sweeping up a few fallen leaves. He withdrew his gaze. Evergreen Lodge is wonderful. I went to see it, I said. That is the place for the palace women. He murmured softly. It's warmer there than in the dream's side chamber. Those words were so faint they nearly scattered in the wind, but I heard them. I didn't reply, and he didn't wait for an answer. After bowing, he turned and left. After that, we'd occasionally run into each other at court meetings, just Lord Gu and Manager Shen, proper, polite, clear-cut. That was fine. A few more years passed, and Meng Qiushuang retired due to illness. She refused to return to her hometown, saying she'd spent half her life in the palace and didn't know where to go outside. I personally escorted her to Changchun House. She stood under the pomegranate tree, her eyes reddening for once. Shinruowan, you sure know how to arrange people's exits. I smiled. Learned it from Sister Meng. She shot me a glance. I never taught you that. You did, you taught me. That accounts must be clear, and people must be clear too. Meng Qiushuang was silent for a moment. And what about yourself? I knew what she was asking. I looked at the old palace women basking in the sun in Changchun House's courtyard. Some were sewing, some brewing medicine, and others dozing on the porch. I said softly, I'm clear too. I owe no one anymore, and I'm waiting for no one. She nodded. That's good. 12 years later, Lin Yunyang returned to the capital. Once she had married a medicine merchant from the south, not a high-ranking family, but in her letters, she said her husband treated her well, and the pharmacy always had cough pills. When she coughed badly, he'd sit by the lamp and brew medicine for her. When she came to see me in the palace, she wore a simple, elegant dress. Her complexion still wasn't rosy, but her brows were relaxed. Manager Shen, she bowed to me. I helped her up. Miss Lin, she smiled, still calling me that. I smiled too. Old habits. She took out the small wooden box, medicine candy from the south, nothing valuable, for the ladies at Changchun House to sweeten their mouths. I accepted it. Thank you. She looked at me, then after a long pause said softly, Ruowan, over the years I've often wondered if you hadn't entered the palace back then, what would we have become? I said, it's all in the past. She nodded. Yes, it's past. Before leaving the palace, she suddenly hugged me very lightly, like finally letting go of a thorn she hadn't dared to touch for years. I didn't push her away, nor did I hug back. I just stood there, waiting for her to let go first. That was enough. That winter, the Empress fell gravely ill on her deathbed. She handed the Palace Affairs Bureau over to me, Shinruowan. She was already very weak, but still looked at me. When I took you into the palace back then, I thought you wouldn't last 3 months. I smiled, though my eyes reddened. Your Majesty misjudged me. She smiled too. Yes, I misjudged you. She took my hand. From now on, let the palace women who have somewhere to go leave. For those with nowhere, keep the door of Changchun House open. I knelt by her couch. Your servant remembers. After the Empress passed, I kept vigil for 7 full days. During those 7 days, I often recalled the first time I knelt before her. She asked me, do you regret it? Back then, I answered softly. Only now did I realize that was the heaviest choice of my life. 12 years later, I became the palace Director Shen. The new young female clerks in the palace were all afraid of me. They said I was strict with accounts, had sharp eyes, and that when I didn't smile, I could freeze someone solid. When I heard that, I seriously looked in the mirror. I really didn't smile much. When Meng Qiushuang heard about it at Changchun House, she laughed so hard she coughed for half a day. She sent someone to pass a message to me. Serves you right. I took some medicine candy to visit her. She was leaning on the porch, her hair much grayer. I put the candy on the table. From Lin Yunyang. She raised an eyebrow. She still remembers. What about Jiu Yunjiao? I thought for a moment. A few days ago, the Ministry of Rights made a mistake in a document, and I sent it back. Meng Qiushuang laughed. You really don't leave any room for sentiment. I smiled too. If the document is wrong, It should be sent back, she nodded. Good. The pomegranate tree in the courtyard had already borne fruit, bright red. 13 When I was 40, a young female clerk cleaning the old storeroom found a chest of early-year red candles. The chest had a faded seal strip, the inventory record said, recovered from Yaohua Palace's old accounts, surplus candles stored. I stood at the storeroom door, looking at that chest of red candles, and said nothing for a long time. The clerk looked uneasy. Director, should we keep these candles? I picked up a pair, dragon and phoenix patterns, a base of Union Bliss. It was exactly like the pair Jiu Yunjiao had picked for Lin Yunyang in that dream, but now, they were just a box of expired old candles. I put them back. Send them to Changchun House. The young female clerk froze. Red candles. I smiled. Changchun House burns a lot of lamp oil for reading at night. Red candles are still candles, she acknowledged, and went to handle it. That night, many red candles were lit in Changchun House. The old female officials gathered around playing cards, the candlelight reflecting on each face, bringing a touch of joy. Meng Qiushuang sat under the eaves, calling it tacky with her words, but there was a smile in her eyes. I stood at the courtyard entrance and watched for a long time. Suddenly, I felt that the pair of late wedding candles from my past life had finally found a new home, no longer lighting the bridal chamber, nor the snowy night in the side courtyard. They now lit the faces of women who had spent their youth in the palace, illuminating a bit of liveliness in their old age. It was good. Before Jiu Yunjiao retired, he came to the Palace Service Bureau to submit his final Ministry of Rights document. There were already white hairs at his temples. I wasn't young anymore either. He put down the document and smiled. Director Shen, any mistakes this time? I flipped through 2 pages. Not that I see for now. That's good. He stood before the desk, silent for a moment. I'm leaving the capital. I looked up. Going back to your hometown, Take care. He nodded when he reached the door. He turned back to look at me. Shen Ruowan. This time, I didn't correct his address. He said, if there's a next life. He stopped mid-sentence himself, then he smiled. Never mind. You've lived this life well. I smiled too. Yes, I've lived well. After he left, I continued reviewing the documents. Sunlight streamed through the lattice windows of the Palace Service Bureau, falling in squares on the desk. The young clerk came in with tea and, seeing me smile, grew bolder. Is the director in a good mood today? I picked up the tea. The old accounts are settled. She didn't understand. I didn't explain either. That evening, I went to Changchun House. The red candles had long burned out, leaving only short stubs. The pomegranates in the courtyard were ripe, and a few old officials were discussing picking them tomorrow to share. Meng Qiushuang sat under the eaves, lazily watching me. Here to audit the accounts again. I sat down beside her. Here to soak up the sun. She snorted a laugh. At your age, still learning to slack off. I looked at the setting sun in the courtyard. Once in a while, many years ago, I died of illness in the Jiu family's side courtyard. No one collected my body, no one lit a lamp. Back then, I thought my life was utterly ruined, with no turning back. Later, I walked through the palace gates and became the lowest-ranking ledger clerk. Day after day, I checked accounts. Day after day, I tallied registers, crossing out every mistake, and slowly crossing out that wrong fate of mine. Now that I think about it, the strict palace rules also gave me freedom. Female officials were forbidden from marrying privately. How wonderful! I no longer had to marry someone to prove I was loved, nor did I have to wait for someone to look back after death to prove I was worth seeing. This life of mine was finally my own. That wraps up the first story. Don't go away, the next one is even more exciting. Earth begets gold. 01 My dad was on the verge of death from illness, so my mom went up the mountain to dig for wild ginseng, but instead of finding ginseng, she dug me up from the dirt. She screamed in terror. She had clearly tied a red string around a ginseng root, so how did she dig up a chubby little girl? Then she started crying. Damn it all, what kind of person would bury a perfectly good child alive? The day she carried me home, not a single person in the family was happy, but by evening, the only egg in the house was placed in my bowl. That night, the old hen at home laid eggs non-stop, laying for most of the night, and the whole family ate until their bellies were round. Later, my dad, who had been bedridden and paralyzed, started running like the wind, doing 50 laps around the village every day. My little sister, who had been deaf and mute, climbed onto the roof every day at dawn to sing, attracting a rich and devoted son-in-law. My mom gave birth one after another. And later, every time my dad entered the house, he'd get beaten. Then, my aunt, who had been sent back by her in-laws for being unable to have children, remarried and got pregnant. I jumped into the kitchen pot to brew ginseng soup for her. When my mom saw me boiling in the pot, she was so scared she chased after my dad, beating him. "I told you to cook for big sister. Who told you to boil the child?" 02 My mom hugged me, shrinking and cowering at the dinner table. We had agreed to dig for mountain ginseng, but instead of finding ginseng, she had brought back a mouth that only ate, making the already struggling family even worse off. A dozen family members stared at me with wide eyes. My mother wiped her tears with a sleeve full of patches. If I hadn't dug fast enough, she would have been gone, I quickly explained. There was air, puffing air, even in the dirt. There was air. You shouldn't have gone out. You brought back such a burden. Grandma was furious, stomping and banging things as she left the room. I said, "Mom, bury me back." My mother sobbed so hard she stuttered. "What have we driven the child to? A little one like her doesn't want to live anymore." That evening, they boiled an egg. No one could bear to eat it, and it ended up in my bowl. "Why aren't you eating?" Grandma grumbled. "A hen only lays so many eggs a day. If everyone ate them, wouldn't it but smoke? Say another stupid thing, and I'll throw you out." I obediently ate the egg. After dinner, Mom rummaged through the room for a while, and amidst Grandma's curses, she pulled out a half-worn red floral fabric to make me a small mattress. Once the whole family was asleep, I sneaked to the chicken coop and gently patted the old hen's rear. "Be good, I'll give you something nice." I plucked a tiny ginseng root and fed it to her. The next morning at dawn, I heard my mother scream, "Come quick, our chicken's laying bombs." Everyone rushed out to see the old hen, but in the air, shooting eggs into the sky. Asterisk bang asterisk, one, asterisk bang asterisk, another. Each egg landed perfectly in the water basin. By morning, the basin was overflowing with eggs, over 20 of them. The old hen had shrunk by 2 sizes, her legs trembling, but her butt didn't smoke that day. The whole family ate eggs. My mother told me to hand them out. I said, "Grandpa, Grandma, Dad, Auntie, Sister, eat your eggies." No one argued, but everyone silently broke off a piece from their own egg and slipped it into my bowl. "One mouthful per person. Can't we raise a child? From now on, she's our girl." 03 That night, I snuck out again to feed the old hen ginseng, but I overheard my dad telling my mom his last wishes. "I'm done for. After I'm gone, if you don't want to remarry, take care of the old and young. If you find someone you like, don't feel trapped. Go, no one will stop you. Mom even saved some dowry for you." My mom couldn't speak through her tears, just kept calling out Schwanzi GE. Finally, Dad said he was thirsty, and she wiped her tears and left. Soon, the whole family came. Grandma, with her bad leg, helped Grandpa, who was blind. My deaf and mute aunt held my trembling mom. The room was a sea of tears. Dad lay there motionless, his body already stiff. Mom fainted, and everyone scrambled to carry her away. When no one was looking, I crept up to Dad. His face was pale with the pallor of death, but he still tried to open his eyes to look at me. "Little girl, if your mom remarries, you're not to follow her. Hear me? Stay here in our home. You won't starve." I blinked at him. "Why should Mom remarry?" His eyes reddened. "I don't want her to suffer. She's had enough pain in this life. Remember, little girl, your mom picked you up. She's kind to you. Don't be a burden. Without a kid, she could find a good family," I said. "But won't you miss her? The dead don't miss anyone." "All right, I'm tired. Little girl, go out." Dad lay still, his chest rising and falling weaker and weaker, until it was almost gone. Then came a asterisk crack asterisk, the sound of a bowl shattering. Mom burst in from the doorway, crying, and threw her arms around Dad. Schwanzi GE. That night, Mom fainted and woke up and fainted. Over and over, while no one was watching, I slipped a ginseng root into Dad's mouth. "Dad, do you have any wishes? Before I die, I want to chop enough firewood to fill the yard for your mom, and fill every bucket in the water vat so she won't have to work so hard." "Okay." When Mom woke up, she cried and insisted on keeping vigil for Dad. Everyone let her, but in the middle of the night, the yard echoed with Mom's screams. "Don't get up. You've been paralyzed for years. Don't fly, Schwanzi GE." Dad, who was on the verge of death, jumped up in the dead of night and ran wild around the yard, chopping firewood and hauling water faster than a monkey in the mountains. Beside him, The old hen clucked and shot out eggs in the morning. When everyone pushed open the door, they found the yard completely blocked by firewood. The door wouldn't budge, the basin was full of eggs, and the old hen was bursting with energy. My father survived. We also made a decent amount of money selling firewood. And eggs. 04 Our family could finally afford to eat. I had an egg every morning. Grandma said kids need to build up their strength, so she even got me a goat, and I drank goat's milk every day. Every morning, there was a bowl of goat's milk. I drank it happily. Goat's milk was so good. Grandma watched me drink, her face full of disdain. You're getting it all over your mouth, messy thing. Drink more. If you don't finish it, it'll go to waste. Then she glanced at my father and mother with a wistful look. If I had a grandson, this goat's milk wouldn't be wasted. The two little ones would have just enough. My mother lowered her head, a bit dejected. My father quickly said, "There's no rush, right? It's not like I've been well. Now that I'm finally better, we'll take it slow." No sooner had he spoken than a commotion erupted at the front gate. With crying growing louder as it approached, a haggard woman was shoved through the door and fell to the ground. Her face was covered in bruises. She was so thin she barely looked human, and she was sobbing uncontrollably. Behind her came a fierce-looking woman and a man who looked a lot like a rat. They were cursing loudly. "She's been married over a year, and her belly's still flat. Are you trying to make our Zhao family die out? Your family owes us an explanation." The woman's gaze swept across the yard and finally landed on me. "Oh, so your Lin family not only has one barren woman, but the eldest son's wife can't produce either. Where'd you pick up this little girl to raise? Looks like your whole family's got issues." My mother ignored their bickering and hurriedly helped the bruised woman to her feet. "Second sister, are you okay?" Aunt Lin Xiaodao was shaking as she cried. "I told you all back then that I ruined my health saving your son. That's the root of it. And now you treat me like this." The fierce old lady Zhao planted her hands on her hips and jumped up. "If you can't have kids, you can't have kids. Don't blame our Zhao family. Let me tell you, we don't want a barren woman." She scanned the yard again and started sneering. "Oh my, this whole family, lame here, blind there. You must have done too many shady things and got your karma. And you dare to pawn off this useless woman to us. Phut, we don't want her. Take her back today." As she cursed, she looked at my younger aunt. "If you still want any ties with our Zhao family, give us this little girl as compensation. But she's a cripple, so no way she's a proper wife. She'll be a maid in the Zhao house, and if she has a kid, we'll talk about making her a concubine." My father was so furious he lunged to hit them. The mother and son scrambled away. "Everyone says Lin's eldest is about to die. Don't let him con us now." They bolted off, leaving the Lin family seething with rage. Aunt Xiaodao couldn't even stand straight from crying. "It's all my fault dragging the whole family down. I wish I'd never saved that heartless bastard." It turned out Aunt Xiaodao and that rat-faced uncle had grown up together. The rat was crazy about her, but she didn't like him. But one time, he fell into the water, and she jumped in to save him. They almost both drowned, and when they were pulled out, they were clinging to each other. So she had to marry him. That icy winter water gave Aunt Xiaodao an illness, and she still hadn't gotten pregnant that night. As I fed Aunt Xiaodao some ginseng roots, I saw my younger aunt tying a rope to the beam. The Zhao family had been spreading rumors outside for days, saying Lin's eldest daughter couldn't have kids. So the Lins planned to offer their crippled little girl as a warming bed maid to apologize. Every time my younger aunt went out, people pointed fingers, and she couldn't defend herself. She'd just come back and wipe away tears in secret. Was she thinking of swinging on a swing to clear her mind? I quietly walked over and wrapped my arms around her leg. "Little aunt, wanna swing? Let's swing together." Back and forth. 05 She was startled. After hesitating for a long time, she got down from the chair, held me, and looked toward the kitchen, babbling and gesturing. She was asking if I was hungry. I obediently nodded. She forgot about dying and just focused on feeding me first. She cooked me some corn porridge, cracked an egg into it, and added a few drops of sesame oil. I ate it happily and shared some with her. She didn't want to eat at first, but I insisted, and she finally took a bite. I fed her the ginseng roots. "Little aunt, what's your wish?" She thought for a moment, gestured outside the wall, and then gestured at me. She liked the clean-cut scholar boy next door. Every day before dawn, his reading voice came from the yard. Sometimes he played the zither. I didn't know what tune, But it sounded nice. Little aunt wished she could one day speak and harmonize with his zither. I obediently nodded. Got it. The next morning before dawn, the courtyard was filled with the sound of a zither and singing. The voice was soft and sticky, raw and unpolished, even stumbling over the words, but the zither deliberately matched her. And it was beautiful. The family, used to the zither, had all gotten up. But as soon as they stepped into the courtyard, they heard my mother let out a sharp wail. She hugged my little aunt, tears streaming down her face. Where's Dad? Where's Mom? Little aunt can talk. Before the news could spread, the Zhao family had already arrived with a shabby sedan chair to take her away. The rat-faced ex-uncle held his head high, his chin nearly poking the sky. I've thought it over, and I'll give your Lin family some face by taking her back first. But in the end, she's still disabled. If she can't bear children, she'll have to work at home. My family doesn't keep freeloaders. The villagers had gathered to watch the spectacle, and at his words, their faces showed indignation, but no one said anything because everyone knew that the Lin family's youngest daughter was a beauty. But deaf and mute, no one was willing to propose marriage. Now that someone was willing to take her, if they spoke up, they might ruin her chance. Seeing no opposition, the Zhao family grew bolder and reached out to grab my little aunt's hand. What's a mute playing all high and mighty for? Someone's willing to marry you so you can carry on the family line. You should be on your knees thanking them. Before the words faded, the rat-faced ex-uncle took a club to the face. My frail, petite little aunt, holding a club thicker than her own leg, was so angry her stutter vanished. I won't marry you, ugly freak. Disgusting. 06. The Zhao family became the laughingstock of the entire village. Word spread that the mute girl from the Lin family was so terrified of the Zhao family wanting to marry her that she suddenly started talking. Just how scary must the Zhao family be? And that's when the truth came out. The rat-faced Zhao son-in-law had someone on the side. His lover was a widow with 3 kids. A real vixen who had him completely bewitched. He never slept in second aunt's room, instead sending her to wait on his parents in the Zhao matriarch's quarters. Out of 365 days a year, he spent no more than 10 in his own room. Oh my, a husband and wife not sleeping together all year. How could she ever get pregnant? But don't you think it's strange? The Lin family's 3rd daughter isn't married yet, so let's not talk about her. But the 1st and 2nd daughters still have no kids. Could it be that the Lin family just can't produce? This 3rd one is doomed. She was already hard to marry off as a mute, and now it's even worse. Before the words were finished, a procession carrying betrothal gifts arrived at our door with drums and gongs, led by the young scholar from next door. He had come to propose to my little aunt. My little aunt was soon married, and while the Zhao family was still shouting that no one would want my little aunt, someone laughed at them. She's already gone to the capital to enjoy a life of luxury. The young scholar from next door was the youngest son of a 5th-rank official's family. He was frail and couldn't stand the heat, so every year when the capital's summer became unbearable, he'd retreat to his rural hometown. Though my little aunt's family wasn't prominent, Old Man Lin had left this village. His youngest son was also weak, and barely managed his studies. Most importantly, the eldest and 2nd sons were too scheming, and had married shrewd, sharp-tongued wives. If the naive 3rd son got caught up in their games, he'd be devoured to the bone. Better to marry a girl from the countryside, virtuous and easygoing. That would do. My little uncle wasn't smart, but he doted on his wife, clinging to my little aunt all day, unable to keep silver in his hands before shoving it into hers. My parents breathed a sigh of relief and started worrying about second aunt again. Second aunt cried every day, unable to eat or sleep, deaf to anything the family said, lost in her sorrow. So I snuck into her room. Second aunt, I'm going to get lost today, right under the crooked tree next to the broken temple on the back hill. You have to come find me. Okay. Second aunt, irritated, waved me off to go play, then lay back down, tears streaming. It wasn't until dark when my parents started calling my name all over the yard. Zhenzhen, Zhenzhen. That second aunt realized something was wrong. I was gone. The whole family was frantic. Only second aunt felt a chill in her heart. She remembered I'd said I'd be lost under the crooked tree so confidently, so clearly. She grabbed a lantern and headed up the hill to look, and I sat quietly under the crooked tree, waiting for her. When second aunt saw me from a distance, her face darkened. What are you doing running off like that? Don't you know the whole family is worried sick? Ah, what's that lying next to you? I patted the nearly breathless man beside me. A person, lying here, a dead body. Second aunt's legs went weak, and she pulled me into her arms. Aren't you scared? I blinked up at her. Not dead yet, can still be saved. The man had indeed stopped moving, and was almost out of breath, but after I stuffed some ginseng shreds into his mouth, he'd pull through soon. Second aunt dragged him back home. She'd been thin and weak lately, but a country girl still had some strength in her. Of course, I helped drag one of his legs that night. The man woke up, his eyes locked onto second aunt and wouldn't let go. He called her a fairy. Second aunt let out a fut laugh. A fairy with a face full of black soot and hair like a madwoman. This guy's saved, but his brain's fried too. Second aunt was pretty, but after years of being ground down by the Zhao family, she looked like a dried up old bark granny. It'd take a while to nurse her back. I was such a dumb cabbage. How could I forget that? Just as I was about to stuff a ginseng shred into second aunt's mouth, I saw that uncle's eyes shining bright as he stared at her. Little uncle had looked at little aunt the same way. 5 months after little aunt got married, she came back to visit her family. The Zhao family had gotten word early and were already spreading rumors in the village, saying that the Lin family couldn't have kids, and that little aunt had definitely been sent back by her husband's family. The Zhao family, didn't mind her being remarried and were willing to take her in as a concubine this time. The villagers couldn't take it anymore. A country bumpkin who hasn't had a full meal in days, doesn't even have a wife, and is already dreaming of taking a concubine like a rich man. The Zhao family was smug. Can't have kids, being a concubine is already an honor for her. Before the words died down, a fancy sedan chair stopped at our front door. Little aunt stepped out, dressed in silk and satin, and the crowd gasped. Where did this fairy goddess come from? So beautiful. The rat spirit ex-uncle stared dumbly, his eyes glued to her, and walked straight forward. Lin Xiaoyu, your husband's family kicked you out, right? Don't worry, your brother-in-law still wants you. Before he finished, the guards beat him into a howling mess. Grandpa couldn't see, but he still felt his way over and whacked him a few times with his cane. Little uncle supported little aunt. You're heavy with child, don't let scum like this bump into you. Go inside quickly. Everyone saw that little aunt's belly was slightly rounded. She was clearly pregnant. Old lady Zhao shrieked. How is this possible? The Lin family can't have kids. She must have been sneaking around with another man. My second aunt spat. Fut, your whole family's the one sneaking around. I think you Zhao family can't have kids. That widow you kept outside had 3 kids in 4 years, but after 3 years with you, not a single one popped out. Your old Zhao family's the infertile one. Oh, old man Zhao, maybe this son of yours was born from some other man's seed, since the Zhao men can't make any. Old man Zhao's face went pale. He didn't care about saving face anymore and started tearing into old lady Zhao. The rat spirit ex-uncle really didn't look like old man Zhao, or even old lady Zhao. That had always bugged old man Zhao, and now second aunt's words made it sting even more. The whole family was in chaos. Little uncle had the guards toss them far away, and then our family went back inside to eat. That day, we ate so much meat, I let the old hen rest for a day. I swear I saw smoke coming out of her. But the Zhao family stirred up trouble at home for a few days, but then it fizzled out, because that pretty widow who'd been with the ex-uncle had married someone else, and not long after, she said she was pregnant. Now everyone was scratching their heads. The Zhao family was making such a racket. But who was really the infertile one? No one liked the Zhao family's ways anyway, and now no one was willing to marry their daughters off to them. The Zhao family had no daughter-in-law now, and old lady Zhao was used to second aunt's care. They decided to lower themselves and take second aunt back, but when they got to the door, they were met with a bridal sedan chair. The uncle's second aunt and I had saved came to propose. The rat spirit ex-uncle stiffened his neck, ready to curse second aunt for being fickle, but that uncle beat him up and hung him from a tree. The Zhao family wailed and cried but couldn't get him down. But second aunt didn't marry that uncle. She said she knew embroidery and had skills, and wanted to try her luck in the city. That uncle took her along. The ex-uncle hung on the tree for 2 days until the rope frayed and he fell. He'd barely recovered for 2 days before he came back to curse our family for being lame and blind. That reminded me that very night, Grandma, who'd been lame, suddenly sat up in bed, ran dozens of laps around the yard, and on the way, grabbed a weasel that had snuck in to steal the old hen, jogged all the way to the back mountain, and tossed it. Grandpa stood on the roof, one hand shading his eyes and the other behind his back. Looking around, neighbor old Jew's wall has a hole in it, and his son's crawling out. Oh, and there's a little girl squatting outside with a little bundle in her hands. TSK. That rat's running all over and fell into the piss pot. Better watch your step when you go to the bathroom tonight. The Lin family, once the poorest and most hopeless in the village, with their eldest son bedridden from a severe illness, the second daughter worn down by her in-laws, the third child deaf and mute, the father blind, and the mother lame, had all miraculously recovered. Even the daughter-in-law was expecting. People started wandering around the Lin family's ancestral graves, wondering if the feng shui had suddenly shifted. Even the Lins themselves, slow as they were, began to sense something was off, but they still spoiled me, treated me well, and never asked a single question. The only one on edge was the old hen, because Grandma kept eyeing her to make soup for me, so she laid eggs like crazy, clattering away every morning. Rumors spread through the village that the Lins had picked up a little lucky star. Ever since I entered their home, their fortunes had turned around day by day. My adoptive parents were already deeply in love. After Dad recovered, they worked tirelessly, and the household steadily improved. Little aunt married into a good family, living in harmony. Even second aunt, who'd been worn down to a shadow by the Zhao family, came back to visit her parents recently, dressed to the nines, saying she worked as an embroiderer in the city. People began showing up at the Lin doorstep, cradling kids of all ages, offering to betroth me to their sons. My mom was furious. My daughter is only three. What betrothal nonsense, get out. But the villagers wouldn't give up. They kept sending their half-grown boys over to play with me, so our house ended up with a motley crew of little laborious, short, tall, skinny, chubby, whom my dad took to the fields to work, and they toiled with gusto. I didn't have to do a thing, just get cleaned up and eat happily every day. I wanted the crops to grow well, but they didn't have mouths to talk, so I went to the kitchen, climbed into the big pot of boiling water, and boiled myself. I told them to pour my bathwater over the fields. That year, our harvest was bigger than the entire village's combined. The village chief stared at the wheat stalks in our field, taller than him, completely dumbfounded. But word of the little lucky star spread farther and farther, all the way to the county magistrate's house. The magistrate's surname was Chen, and he wasn't a good man. When settling disputes, he always sided with whoever had money. Only when both sides were broke did he show a shred of fairness. He'd been in office for over a decade and had no children. His wife had taken in 7 or 8 concubines for him, but none of their bellies ever stirred. Hearing that a little lucky star could cure infertility, he showed up that very day, strutting in with gifts and attendants. This kid of yours is pretty good. I'm taking her to the city to enjoy life. Pack her things. Let's go. He tossed down a chest of silk and 100 silver taels. Consider this your payment for raising her. My parents refused, clutching me and begging him. She's our daughter. She's not going anywhere. Can an official just steal someone else's child? The magistrate sneered. What good will come of staying with you? She'll end up married to some farmer. With me, it's different. This little girl's got looks. Marrying into an official family won't be hard. Marrying an official like you would be worse than not marrying at all. Seeing my parents still unwilling, he left with a cold face. The next day, he brought a woman with him. This is the little girl's real mother. She's come looking. Are you going to give her back or not? 09. The woman did look a bit like me. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. Oh, my daughter, I've searched so long. How did you end up here? These wicked people hid you away. My daughter's a little lucky star. They want to keep her all to themselves. My dad almost fell for it, he stammered. But we found her. My mom slammed the table. Nonsense. I dug this child out of the dirt while harvesting ginseng. If she's your daughter, explain why you'd bury a perfectly good baby in the ground. The woman didn't answer. She just hugged me and sobbed. Oh, my daughter, you can't deny your real mother. Honestly, I had no idea what my real mother looked like when she gave birth to me. She didn't even know she had. She was playing around underground, got into a fight with a huge black bug, and dropped a bunch of seeds. One of those seeds was me. What if this really was my mother? I blinked at her. You're really my mom? Then why didn't you take me with you? She cried harder. It was too hard back then. Too chaotic. I didn't know I'd lost you. Good girl. Come home with me first. I'll tell you everything slowly. I nodded. Lin dad and Lin mom went pale, Trembling in silence, I walked over and touched Mom's belly. "Don't worry, you'll have your own little baby soon." Mom held me tight, refusing to let go. "Junjun is still Mom's baby." Father Lin's face shifted through several shades. He couldn't be sure if the woman in front of him was my mother, because even I didn't know. He could only hesitate and look at me. "Junjun girl." I said, "Let me step out with her first." The Lin family thought I was going with her, their faces full of reluctance as they silently watched me. That woman beamed from ear to ear, scooping me up and heading out. Oh my, blood is thicker than water after all. A girl sticks with her real mother, those outsiders just don't cut it. We'd only taken a few steps when the ground suddenly caved in beneath her. She dropped straight into a hole, and then mud surged up, sealing her in tight 10. When they dug her out, she was completely out cold, her face a sickly pale blue. The doctor rushed over and pounded on her for ages before she gasped back to life, then scrambled away in a panic. "I told you, messing with the little lucky star is a death wish. I'm done, I quit." Everyone stood there dumbfounded, eyeing me warily. I blinked and said, "She's not my mommy. My real mom could stay buried in dirt for centuries and still bounce around." This one passed out in a flash. Exactly, I didn't buy it either. What mother looks at her kid like a gold nugget, itching to cash it in, right? And when she fell into that pit, she tried to use the kid as a cushion. Who the hell did they hire? Just grab anyone to snatch the little lucky star. No one dared to curse the county magistrate outright, so they took jabs at the fake woman instead. The magistrate was so embarrassed he couldn't stay, flicked his sleeves, and left. Dad and Mom looked worried, and they talked to Grandpa and Grandma about moving. They've got their eyes on Junjun. "I don't feel safe staying here anymore. Let's move." "Fine, but when we get to a new place, we can't be too flashy." Grandpa was scared for me too, so the family quietly packed up, ready to slip away under cover of night. But we hadn't gone far when we ran into a gang of bandits. They held knives to my parents, demanding they hand me over. My dad roared in frustration, "You couldn't take her during the day, so now you come at night. Think we don't know who sent you?" The gang caught on. "Silence them. Kill everyone except the little girl." Grandma was so mad she smacked Dad's head. "You've been dumb your whole life, and you pick now to get clever." That's when I said, "Just hand me over. That bad official's house has tons of meat." My mom couldn't bear to let me go. Hugging me and crying, I added, "I'm going willingly, so they won't have to die." And so I ended up at the county magistrate's house. His main wife kept her distance, putting on airs, but the 8 concubines nearly tore each other apart fighting over me. "Little girl, come with me, I'll make you the best pastries." "Little girl, want this gold hairpin? I've got more. Look at this big bed of mine. Don't you want to sleep on it?" The county magistrate beamed. "With a fertility charm like this, how many heirs can I have in the future?" I blinked at him. "How many do you want?" "Ha, as many as I can get. I'm not some poor farmer scratching the dirt. I can afford to feed any number of mouths." "Got it." When the first concubine got pregnant, the magistrate finally held his head high, throwing a huge banquet to tell everyone he wasn't sterile, he had an heir. When the second concubine got pregnant, the banquet was still lavish, and he was even more smug by the third time. He was starting to get tired. The fourth, fifth, sixth times, the banquets got smaller and smaller, the guests fewer and fewer. The pregnant concubines kept slipping me gold, jewels, snacks, and silk in private. I hauled it all back to the Lin family, because I could burrow through the ground. The first time I showed up at the Lin house, they were building a swing in the yard, saying as they worked, "Will Junjun like swinging?" I popped my head out from the corner of the yard. Yes, yes." Mom hugged me, tears streaming. "How did you get back?" "Crawled through the dirt." Talking nonsense again. But they really didn't know how I got back, and they stopped asking. This was obviously something big. Maybe I was a little fairy from heaven. If I wasn't telling, it must be because I couldn't, like I'd fly away if I did. Playing dumb couldn't hurt. Whatever they gave me, I hauled back to the Lin family. The Lin family's life was just too sweet. But my mom held me and said, "What if they find out? Keep the good stuff for yourself, sweetie. Don't always bring things back to us. We've got hands and feet. We can earn our own." Not that there was much left to haul anyway. The county magistrate's wives kept popping out babies, one after another, each concubine having more than one. They all beamed, cradling their little ones, while the magistrate's face grew paler and paler. The house he'd built couldn't hold them all anymore now. When he walked down the street, his steps were unsteady, and he'd suddenly stomp his feet out of nowhere. No more births, no more. Later, I heard he got busted for embezzling imperial silver and taking bribes on the side. I burrowed into the ground to visit him once and left some food, dunno if he could fight the rats for it. Those rats were huge, bigger than 3 of my feet put together. 11 in my 3rd year with the Lin family, they bought a new house in town and gave it a full renovation, a 2-courtyard, 3-exit layout, with blue bricks laid on the ground so rain wouldn't puddle. Little aunt had 2 kids, and my parents had a baby brother. We also got 2 little maids, all round and soft, looking like they'd be a joy to bite. Old neighbors from the village still came by sometimes, and seeing the scene, they'd click their tongues in awe. How did Yuan Niang ever bring home such a treasure? I went up the mountain every day, but that one day I was too lazy from the heat and skipped it. Not long after, an old Taoist priest showed up at the Lin family's door, jangling his bell with a fake air. There's a demon. Grandpa and Grandma, clueless, called him in to talk, his murky eyes locked onto me. This is a demon. If you don't get rid of it, your family will be ruined sooner or later. Such a pity, such a pity. Grandpa slapped him across the face. I don't know if my family's gonna be ruined, but you're about to be. Grandma and Grandpa gave the old Taoist a thorough beating, chased him out, and told me not to go out for a few days. I didn't go out, I just left through the flower pots and came back through them. But I didn't expect that when I did go out, the old Taoist caught me red-handed. He grabbed me, his eyes gleaming with greed. TSK TSK TSK, a ginseng spirit. If I used it for alchemy, 1 pill would make me immortal, wouldn't it? He held a black, sooty furnace, ready to toss me in. I asked him, why bother with alchemy? Wouldn't eating me raw be better? Alchemy doesn't work as well, fresh is best. He seemed convinced by me, so he decided to take me to the imperial city and brew the elixir of immortality right in front of the emperor. But getting an audience with the emperor wasn't easy, so he stuffed me into a burlap sack and carried me off to find some big shot official, hoping for an introduction. 1,000-year ginseng. Where? The official was skeptical. The voice sounded familiar. The old Taoist said, it's right in this sack, but this ginseng has already turned into a spirit, looking like a kid. Open it first. The sack opened, and I poked my head out, coming face to face with my second aunt and that uncle she'd rescued. Before the old Taoist could even flash a grin, the uncle knocked half his teeth out with 1 punch. He grabbed the Taoist, beating him while yelling, dare to kidnap my kid, and call it 1,000-year ginseng, you old demon who eats children. The old Taoist got a thorough thrashing, then was paraded through the streets with a sign around his neck reading child trafficker. He was nearly buried under rotten veggies and stinky eggs along the way. The uncle said he'd spend the rest of his life in jail after that. He looked at my second aunt with a smug face, asking what reward she'd give him. She kicked him, and he was over the moon. 12 I stayed with the Lin family for a few more years, and they just kept getting better. Little uncle-in-law became the county magistrate here. He was smart and incorruptible, and with his family's deep pockets, he didn't even glance at petty bribes. After a few years in office, he got transferred to the capital. Second aunt's marriage was settled, but she was dead set against it, often using the excuse of taking me out to try and run away. Every time, the uncle caught her and dragged her back, and in the end, she had to marry. Another spring came, and the yard was full of blossoms. Dad measured my height and frowned. Why haven't you grown in the last 2 years? Because I was about to seed. After I seeded, I'd go back to the ground for a nap, then come back to find them when I woke up. On the day I left the yard full of flower pots. When they woke up and found me gone, they were heartbroken, but they didn't stay sad for long. They were about to have so many of me. Plant 1 junjun in spring, and you'd get a whole bunch of junjun. Junjun would always be with them. That's all for today's story. If you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.